Hey everybody, Bill here from mintCast. So what I'm going to attempt to try to do here is a bit of an instructional video that's going to explain in as much detail as I can the step-by-step process um, that we use for publishing the edited audio-only versions of our podcast to be available on podcast players, RSS downloads, and on the website itself. This is going to involve a little bit of uploading, downloading, a little bit of HTML, tiny bit HTML, and some editing. And I don't know, it ought to be a lot of fun. I say that because I literally just learned how to do this myself about 10 minutes ago. So we're going to go through this step by step. I can't promise it's going to be perfect, but it's going to be fun. So anyway, let's get into it. Okay, to start with, just to go over a couple of things. Um, if you notice when you go to our website, mintcast.org, the first thing you'll see is the most recent episode that we have posted. Might not be the most recent episode that we've recorded. For that, you're almost certainly going to want to go to YouTube. We've attempted to keep the show as up to date as possible, but I mean, it is a lot of work, and we all uh, we all do regular jobs too, so we do the best we can. But this is well, it is what it is. So, like I said, you've got on the website, you've got certain things that need to work. Um, this title, which is the latest episode as of the recording of this video, this is the latest episode. I literally just got this done um, less than an hour ago. Um, and these are all separate uh, elements that are kind of put together into the website to make it work. Now, you don't edit everything you see here every time you add an episode, but there are a few things that have to be done. Um, for example, this title is actually a link that when you click on it, as you see, it'll take you to the actual post page where all of these things, such as the body text here, and then all of these links that cover what we got into in the innards for this episode. These are all links that are copied over from our show notes, and check this out as well. Um, and then we kind of go through, and then this player down here, which you can see, also shows up right here in on the front page. This player is a added little bit of HTML code that has to be I wouldn't say rewritten. You'll see here in a minute we do a lot of copy and pasting from a previous post to make this all kind of come together. So now this is all done uh, after. This is all kind of done. Well, after after the editing is done for the episode. We use Audacity for that. Now, it's worth noting that um, to make it to do it correctly, you're going to want to add timestamps the to the show notes, to the description for each show. Um, they're not necessarily links to the time slot in the show, but it helps to give somebody if they're looking for a particular spot. Now you will notice that certain episodes, a lot of them, well, the one I just did, in fact, there are no time stamps on that description, and that's just because when it comes to trying to get caught up when we get behind on episodes, that's unfortunately one of the things that kind of get left behind. But Audacity here is the version, or well, is the software that we use to do our audio editing, and it would be the best place to go to try to find the exact timestamps, because you can see right down here at the bottom, whenever you find a place uh, where you want to stop, right here is where you would get the timestamp from. So anyway, that's one thing to note right off the start. So let's get into starting to post. Now, I just posted episode 396.5. Now, our point 0.5 episodes are the ones where we post the second half of the show. When we record about 3 hours of mintCast, and then it literally gets split in half. The for example, 396 would have been kind of our news, our security news, and then we go into what we call the wanderings, where we talk about the things that we've been getting into, and then at the end of that, we kind of copy and paste. We do a little magic on Audacity to add the theme music and all that stuff to the beginning and end of both. It's far more complicated than just that, but it kind of gives you an idea. We split it in half, and then we will post the first half as, for example, 396. And as you can see, there's only description here for the content that is in what is essentially the first half of the show. And then on 396.5, that's where you see the description for the what we call the innards. And the innard is just the main body, the deep dive subject that we've chosen to go deep on. So anyway, without further ado, the absolute first thing we need to do is log into the WordPress admin page so that we have access to all of the stuff that allows us to add things to the website. Because as you can see here, there's two main elements involved in publishing an episode of mintCast. One of which is Internet Archive, and the other is the website itself. In our case, our website runs on WordPress, which is a very popular internet blogging based bit of open source software that's used probably as widely as anything else, if not more, for creating websites, and it works great for the ecosystem of plugins for WordPress is just, I don't even know all the things you could use it for. I think it was originally intended for blogging, but it's grown so much beyond that in recent days, and it's an obvious choice for building a website for anybody that's doing any kind of content creation. But our actual file hosting is done on Internet Archive, which is a free to the public service for uploading the actual, in our case, MP3 files that our website will be referencing in the RSS feed to provide the actual content. But for starters, first step, we log into our WordPress admin page, and the username and password, which is a relatively complicated but appropriately so password string, and that is in the show docs. If you have problems, if you're somebody that is going to be doing editing and publishing of the show, and you have access to that document, and you have trouble finding it, let one of us know, and we will guide you there. But it is in a spreadsheet in our docs, and that's where you'll find that password. And then, of course, if you're using any modern browser, it will save your place, and you'll only have to log in once, and then it'll have it saved from then on out. So let's go ahead and log in. And then what we're presented with first here is basically a dashboard. If you don't have a lot of experience with WordPress, some of this might be a little bit strange at first, but I'll go ahead and expand that out so that we can see a little bit better. Um, this will kind of lay out in a working order all of the elements that we have to work with here. Like I said, WordPress is very plugin oriented, and so you have a lot of options here. You basically build a system with the plugins that you install that give you all of this functionality, all these metrics, all this access to user listener feedback, and then Jetpack, which is a bit of software that helps with security and um, sustainability and things like that. Now, PowerPress is the plugin that we use that actually manages the RSS and presents our show on the website as a usable podcast. But for the sake of just adding episodes to the podcast, what we're going to do here is go to posts. Now, you can see when you go to just the post page here that you have a list of all, because you're looking at an admin panel here. Now you got a list of all of the posts or pages, if you will, for the sake of semantics. The WordPress calls these posts. Every time you add a show, it'll be called a post. And the last one is the one I just added that I cleverly named New School Ransomware. Shows up here on top. So what we are going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to find an episode because we're going to do 397. So let's find an episode that I happen to know was well done on here by somebody that really knows what they're doing. And let's 387. Let's just do 10 episodes away. Now, when you run the cursor over, you see that you got options here: edit, quick edit, trash, and view. What we're going to do is click edit. Also, I should mention the instructions that I'm using to get this done are going to be over here. That's also in the Google Docs under publishing a mintCast episode. And you bring this up. You can do whatever. You download it if you want, convert it to a PDF if you like. It doesn't matter. You can look at it right on here. But we're going to go through this step by step. So let's go back to where we were at then. For a second here, let's go ahead and minimize this because I forgot to mention what we need to do as part of the getting things ready here is we're going to use an app called Easy Tag, which will basically make sure that we have the correct tags, the correct HTML, well, the correct ID3 tags. Now, if you was to scroll down in the instructions here, you would see that it tells you how to go and get Easy Tag, and then select on Easy Tag, just select bring it into the folder right here, and then select the episode in this case. Now, if you look, there's not any tags associated with this file. You can add some tags when you're exporting, when you're done with Audacity, and it'll kind of simplify the whole thing. But if you don't, Easy Tag will work just fine. So, as you can see here in the instructions, it's kind of, we lay these all out in such a fashion that we're able to discern easily one episode next to another. And that kind of helps out a lot, I think. So what I'm going to do, let me get my windows sitting here in a way that I can go back and forth. So the title for 397, we're going to first off call this EP 397. All right, so the title is mintCast. Make sure you capitalize the C. 397 space dash space. Let's call this Bye Bye Stadia. Who didn't see that one coming? All right, so artist. We call it. You kind of, I don't know, if you have trouble coming up with something clever, naming an episode, kind of ask the rest of the crew if they've got an idea. Some of us are better at this than others. I absolutely stink at this, coming up with clever stuff. Every now and then something's just so obvious, and I might someday get used to the thought process that goes along with it, but eh. Okay, so artist is mintCast. Capitalize the C. Album artist mintCast. Album mintCast. Year 2022. Track 397. Genre. Now there's a drop down for this. And okay, keep looking. I do not see. Okay, of course it's right in front of my face. Comment. The podcast by the Linux Mint Now the instructions tell you to do a little bit of copy paste or a little bit of magic with just copying over some of the stuff from one episode to the other. You get that figured out. You go right ahead. The way my mind works, this is probably the easiest way for me to handle it. Composer, leave that blank. Original artist, leave that blank. Copyright. Okay, so this is Creative Commons with the added stipulations. 4.0. The URL is just mintcast.org, or you could put https:// I'm just going to put, and then hit the save button, and you are golden. This will actually change. When you change this, it'll actually change the name of the file itself. That's okay. Because we're going to upload this to archive.org here in a little bit, and it helps to have everything it helps to maintain a naming, numbering convention just to keep things kind of uniform and easy to understand. Okay, so let's get this off the screen then. Put this back over on the other monitor. Let's bring back up the stuff we're working on. All right. So what we are going to do here is we've got an episode that looks good, that we don't need to do anything with, but we want to be able to take all of the elements that are on here, transfer them over to the new post, and then change the things that need to be changed so that it is reflecting the newer episode. And so, real quick though, when you're going and when you're going to put this in edit mode, what I would do is open the edit in a new tab. So in other words, middle click on that. That way it doesn't, you're not in the same tab. That way it puts it in a new tab. And then I'm going to take this over here and put it on this other instance. That way I got them next to each other. No, my bad. I'm going to put this back over here. I'm going to go back over here. Now I'm going to go up here to this little plus symbol where it says new, and I'm going to hit new post. I'm going to open that in a new tab as well. Now this tab I'm going to drag over here to this other browser. Okay. Now, what I've essentially got next to me, or what I've essentially got in front of me, is the editable pages for a completed, well done episode post on the left side, and then a blank, ready, fresh, clean slate for a new post that we're going to work on the right side. All right, so now that we've got these two pages up, first thing we're going to do is kind of click somewhere here in the middle of the body of text, somewhere in here where it's doing the description. It'll bring up this some toolbars here. Click these three buttons. It brings up some options. Edit as HTML. Now it brings all of this information up in HTML format. You're going to right click, select all. Okay, so now you've got that selected on the clipboard. Now we're going to switch over to our working copy. Sit here somewhere in the click somewhere here in the body where it says type or choose to block. Now we're going to go up here to post. No, wait. Block. Let's see. What does it say here? All right. So first off, let's add our title. 397 space dash space by Stadia. All right. Now, let's click down here. Add. Okay. So click this little plus sign. Add classic. We're going to go with classic block. Edit as HTML. And paste. Voila. Excelente. So what we basically have done here is we've put the correct name, but what we've done is we've copied over all of the HTML from an old episode. So if we switch this back to a visual editor, you'll see that what we've basically done is just copied over the contents of one page to another. But the reason we do that is because we want to have a sort of template to work with, because there's a lot of formatting here, that would take a lot to redo each time. Now, if you get into doing this a lot and you discover it's easier to create templates, I'm sure there's even templates you can make that have drop downs to add the information in a way that makes more sense. That is absolutely fine, as long as the end result is still what we're used to having. Okay, so let's go back here to our working copy. Now, the next step we're going to do is go over here to post, permalink. That's fine. tags, featured image. Now, if you'd have noticed a second ago when I went to permalinks, it didn't list much of anything, and I had to pause the video and go back and see what I did wrong. And what I discovered was, before you move forward from here, you need to go up here and save this as a draft. Okay, you need to hit save as draft, and what that'll do is it'll just kind of save it as a working draft of the post, and it doesn't like share it or publish it or anything. It's just on here if you're on the admin page. Okay, so now that it's saved as a draft, if I go to the permalink, now there's a URL slug, which means this is the title of the page that people will see when they go to it. Now, what you'll notice here is that for some reason, WordPress by default will take what we made and they'll take the spaces in between the dash and the letters, and they'll add another dash to it. So what we need to do is delete those, put the space back in, delete space. Now all is well with the universe again. All right, so let's go down to categories. We're going to, now if you look at the instructions again in the docs, it will tell you that there is two separate ways of handling. There's going to be a few things that are going to be different for the first half from what we would do on the 0.5 episode. This is, for example, one of those things. So you'll go to categories, and for the first, the categories is going to be news, MP3, OGG. I don't know. It seems like we need to stop doing that. We don't release in OGG format anymore. And podcast. And then for the 0.5 episodes, it'll be MP3, OGG, and podcast. So you'll leave the news part off because we covered news in the first half. So back to our screen that we're working on over here. I'm going to go ahead and add MP3, news, and I'll go ahead and add OGG until somebody tells me not to. There's others on here too that would probably be more in tune with what we talk about, but for the sake of getting somebody started with this, we'll keep it by the book. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is scroll down to let's see, no tags, because the tags are in the file itself. Categories. All right, no, we just did categories. Featured image. Okay, this is where we set that big image that we're used to seeing right here. Each episode can have its own image. I think this is right here is what I'm actually talking about. You can set separate images, but as you can see, we use the same one for every episode. So what we're going to do here is left click on that, media library, and we're supposed to choose an image we've got in here called big. So let's go ahead and search for it. Big logo, and I've searched for it before, so here it is. Okay, so that brings up two of them. And what I'm going to do is, there's two of them on here, and I don't see why there's two, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with the newest one and go down here and set featured image. Bam. Okay, excerpt. Now the excerpt is going to be a little bit of HTML code that actually renders the part that you see right here in the green. This is all a bit of separate excerpt code that puts all of this stuff right here in the front page, and then it's actually separate from what you see here. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the excerpt from the old one, right click, left click. I'm going to select all. Then I'm going to copy that. Now, what I like to do, because you got to do a little bit of work with this, the instructions tell you to just go over here and copy or well, go over here and paste it right in. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a text editor. In this case, I'm using Mint Cinnamon, so I'm using Xed, and I'm going to paste it in here. That way I can work with this a little bit easier. And then I'm going to drag this off the screen for after we get done. Well, first off, well, yeah, okay. I'm going to drag this off the screen for the time being. But we've got this. The reason we wanted to do this now is because we're getting ready to, we're pretty much done with this old episode, and you could click it out if you want to. I'm going to leave the tab open um, in case there's something I missed that I need to go back and get. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the show notes for this episode. Now, when we go to uh, put this into the excerpt down here, it's going to have a whole lot of different information. For example, we're going to change this right here from episode 387 to 397, right here, here, and here, and then we're going to change a lot of what you see right here. Okay, um, but for the time being, we'll move that off the screen, put it over here on my other monitor. It's nice to have multiple monitors so that you can move things around and get them out of the way, but keep them open, but still be able to look at them. All right, so we got that out of the way. Let's go ahead and do some cleaning up here real quick. Let's close some of these tabs just to let's keep excerpt open because we have to remember to do that. Okay, now I've got the show notes right here on the left. Is basically so that it's not going to be a straight copy paste because as you can see, the show notes are a lot more exhaustive in terms of the amount of information that is listed here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this information, we're going to make it more concise. We're going to add, like I was talking about before, good practice is to put these timestamps in the beginning. This tells people where to go exactly to find the news, the security and privacy, the biweekly wanderings, and then the announcements. That is good practice. I want you to do it. For the sake of me getting this done, though, I'm going to leave this step out, and it's actually, I'm actually going to end up starting the whole thing with the beginning description. So what I will do here, I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to fill a lot of this out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the show notes here and I'm going to write up a bit of a concise description of the first half of the show, or well, the episode 397 that is, and then I'm going to also copy over all of the. I'm going to get rid of all these, and then I'm going to copy over the actual links to the news stories. Because as you can see, this is kind of the same thing. What we did, whoever did released this episode, they just copied over a link like this without all the information underneath. They just copied the link over, and then down to security and privacy, the same thing. If you look at the notes here on the left. Okay, so now I'm down in the security and privacy. Exact same thing. Just copy over, make sure that it is a working link. You can just left click on it and it shows you where that link takes you. Make sure it's a working link, but you don't need to, in fact, please don't include all this other information because you can see how big of a post that would end up being, and it just clogs up the website. And people go to these pages to get concise information and quick links to the things that we're talking about. You probably won't have to do anything in the wrap-up just because if you use a relatively new episode to copy and paste over from, um, yeah, I'm going to have to do some changing here because we don't use Bytemark anymore, um, or a Mumble server. So I'm going to do a little bit of changing here, but for the most part, you won't have to mess with that if you copied over a fairly recent. The best thing to do would be to copy over the previous episode that we just did. But previous episodes, I wanted to grab an episode that I knew was well done. Not that anybody's doing it wrong. I wanted to make sure it was somebody that really put the extra work into it. So I'm going to pause the video and then I'm going to do a little bit of editing here to make this into something appropriate, and then I'll start it back and explain a little bit of what I did. All right, so I'm back, and what I've done here, as you can see, is I've taken the more um, relevant things and added them to the new page. So basically what I did is I just kind of copy and pasted the standard intro stuff over here where it says what we're going to talk about briefly, and then the security and privacy, uh, and then briefly what we talk about in our wanderings. Okay, and then down in the news for this episode was huge, apparently, because what I basically did was I went over one at a time. I grabbed all of these links and copied and pasted them. Make sure that you're copying and pasting them over here in the link format, and you're not leaving any of the old stuff behind from the other, the template that you were using. And then scroll down here, the exact same thing basically, delete what's there and then copy and paste from the show notes. What is it? See, look at all this. I have to scroll down through. Okay, security and privacy, the exact same thing. It's not really hard. It's just kind of time consuming. Never before seen malware. And again, make sure these links work. That way, if somebody, because this is the stuff that's going to also come up in the podcast player, because the plugin, the Blueberry plugin that we use on the website is also sending all of this information off to the RSS stream, and that's going to be put on the podcast players. So make sure that all of these links work. And then the wrap up, I didn't have to do anything to this. I think this all, well, mostly looks good for the most part. We don't want to. We want to make sure that there's not information on here that's not relevant anymore. I had to change a couple of things on here. In the past, there were some names that had to be updated for different things. Like my name is added to. If you look at the bottom, a good way to know that you're doing the right thing is you look all the way at the bottom of the show notes, where it says wrap up. This will have all of the information you need to put over here. You see these names that are on here, they need to kind of line up with what's over here. Okay, so we got all that done. Now, occasionally, just save as draft as you go. Every time you do something, hit the save as draft. That way, as you make changes, it's saved. If you lose power or something somehow gets screwed up, the myriad of 1,000 things that could happen to screw up all your work, just like when you're working on a LibreOffice Writer document, you want to make sure you're saving it occasionally. That way you don't lose any work. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set this aside for a second. We're going to go to Internet Archive. Now, you're going to want to log in. And again, the login username and password is in the document folder. And if you have trouble finding that, just get with somebody on the crew. And this button over here is the upload button. This is all relatively simple, but there's a lot of detail here that perhaps needs to be handled. So now you're gonna that same file that you edited the tags for, make sure you go and get that same file. In my case, I did all that from the downloads folder. And again, you're going to have some things you're going to need to change about this, or kind of fine tune here. So the title, the page title format needs to be as such. mintCast, make sure the C is capitalized. mintCast episode 397, or whatever episode you're working on. Page URL format, you're going to want to change that to mintCast. Now, there's not going to be any spaces in this. Capitalize the C, mintCast 397, just like that. Okay, so description. Now, description, basically what you're going to do here is you're going to go over to your description on that you wrote up for the WordPress, and just grab all this, copy it. Oops. Oh, thank God for the undo button. Copy it and paste it. Again, you're going to want, if you would have done this absolutely correctly, you would have had the timestamps up here in the front, because if you look at the instructions, you'll see the in the description format as it shows here, it's got the timestamp. So when you're doing this professionally, if you will, put the timestamps on top. But for the sake of me getting this done, I'm going to leave those off. And in the future, we'll just have to try to get that done. Okay, so subject tags. Again, we're going to paste that from WordPress. Go over here to the tab, tags. The categories. MP3, news, OG, podcast. So yeah, MP3, news, OG, podcast. Creator, we're going to leave that blank. The date. Okay, so this is the date that we recorded, not the date that it's published, but the date that it was recorded is what we're going to want to go by. So we will go back to the top, and as you can see, it says it was recorded on Sunday, the 2nd of October. So 2022, October 2nd. All right, collection. You're going to leave that at community auto. Don't mess with test item. Language. Make sure that says English. License. Okay, so here's one that you got to get used to thinking about. So the license is going to be Creative Commons, allow remixing, and require share alike. So it's going to be a Creative Commons with the two stipulations. And then click the upload. And I'll go ahead and pause while it's doing all that. Okay, so that took a few minutes to upload, and it will, depending on your your internet speed, other things that you've got going on, and whatever. It's archive.org. We're just happy to have this resource available to us. And once it's uploaded and a little bit of stuff is done to update it, it'll take you to the page right here for the show, and you can see it's kind of it's absolutely appropriate to go ahead and listen to the show right from here. You got a little media player, and it works pretty good. But we're not quite done yet. what we're going to do now is right click down here where it says VBR MP3. We're going to right click that. If you're using Chrome, it'll be copy link address. If you're using Firefox, it's just copy link, I think. So copy that. You've got that on the clipboard now. Now go back to your WordPress editor here. Now all the way down here at the bottom is this section that is more relevant to the Blueberry plugin, and this is where you will paste that link. You can see here it's archive.org/download/mintcast397. This is all information that we edited in to make sure that it was uniform. Now you copy that in. Now hit the verify button. What Blueberry is doing is it's going to archive.org and making sure that that is a good link. And as you can see, if you get this green check mark, it is good. Let's go ahead and save draft again. All right, now we're going to go back to that thing we were talking about before, where we're going to edit the excerpt. Now this is going to add that little bit of code to it that we were talking about that makes for the the interesting little player and all that stuff that you have here on the front page. This is you have to get all this little code, and it's kind of laid out like this, and it's why I use a text editor, so you can see all this stuff kind of in one page, whereas if we just put it over here, it wouldn't be quite as easy to deal with. So anyway, what we've got here is the old page. What I'm going to do then is move this over here, go back up to the top. Let's get, basically we're going to do the same thing again here. We're going to copy, go back over here to our document. We're going to paste that here. Okay, what they should have done here was put a HTML line break. That way it doesn't run all of this text together. And let's put another one down here. Just make sure that you actually get a space in between these lines. Okay, so then that's the general news, and then let's go ahead and copy this, come back over here, paste it on top of that. All right, and then in our wanderings, copy and paste. Okay, now that looks good, and but we're not quite done yet. What we need to change now, this is why it's important to always use the same naming and numbering convention when you're uploading this stuff, because now that we go down here to this line, this is the code that'll make this little player work, and the little see that little download link? That's this little bit of code right here. To make that work, all we have to do is change that 8 to a 9, and the same here. You've got to do it twice because it's we have to do it twice up here too. And then do it here. $397. Let's take a good look over it real quick. We got the first paragraph, and then a line break, and then the security and privacy, and then a line break, and then the wanderings, line break. And then we've got the link, the download link right here, and then a line break. And then the audio, see how it says audio controls, source code, or source, and then it kind of describes where to get the link from. That's what creates this little player right here that makes the website a little bit more professional looking, I think. Okay, we got all that done. We're going to right click on it, select all, right click on that, copy, go back over here to excerpt, paste. See how much easier, because once you copy that in there, um, it's there. If you're used to doing it that way, that's one thing, but it's real squeezed together, kind of hard. It feels like an awful lot going on. So much easier just to use text editor. We'll go ahead and move that off the screen. Save as a draft again. Now, what we can do, just to make sure that everything works the way it should, let's go ahead and look at the preview. Let's preview it with this button, desktop, preview in a new tab, and it's going to generate that preview for us just to make sure that we did everything correctly. And we are presented with the actual website version of all the work we did. Let's go ahead and hit the play button on here.
Welcome to mintCast, the podcast by the Linux Mint community for all users of Linux. This is episode 397, recorded on Sunday the 2nd.
Okay, this episode doesn't have...
At least I'm not in Florida. I'm Joe.
Hey everybody, it's Bill.
Oh. I like it. I like it. Okay, so we have, for anybody that doesn't know, we have employed, I should say, we have acquired the assistance of a proper, I dare say, proper audio editor for our show, and she's switched around the beginning announcements with the theme music, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. But okay, you can see here that this is the page, and everything seems to be. Let's click one of the links, see if it works. Hey, look at that. It takes us right there. Back up. Let's try another one here. What do you know? And then everything's laid out down here. The player works, and everything seems to be fine. You can just, when you're done looking at it, you can just close this tab because that's really just a preview. It's not the actual published page. But since we know now that everything works, we can go ahead and hit the publish button. We can take a look over all of this and make sure everything looks good. And go ahead and hit the publish button again. Now we can get rid of the editor by clicking that button there. Keep your fingers crossed. We're still in the admin panel, but you can go to the page by clicking up here on mintCast. Look at that. All right, something's wrong here because the player is not showing up. I'm going to go in and see what I did wrong, and I'll get right back with you. Let's see here. Okay, so I fixed it. What it ended up being was the episode that I copied from whoever. I didn't go through and made sure that that was a well-working post like I should have. And whoever did that one did a couple of... Well, there was... If you don't name the episodes the same, and like the EP gets left off of this or something like that, then it won't work right. So it's important that all of the syntax lines up with what was actually used on the website. Make sure you're copying over from somebody that did it right. So when you're copying over a post, go back to the page here and make sure that everything's laid out the way it is. And as you can see now, everything is laid out the way it should be, including our artwork over here, the player down here that's embedded. See, this is an HTML embedded player because of this little bit of code right here, and this download button is embedded also because of this little bit of code up here. So it's important to get it right for no other reason than you want to make sure that you're pointing towards the correct file because it's sitting over here on this other thing. Um, if people want to go to Internet Archive and consume the content that way, that's completely up to them. There's no reason why they can't. But doing it the way we do it on our own website negates the necessity for the user to have to go track down where our files actually are. This is abstracted away in a sense by our website, and then the RSS feed just serving up that file, and it doesn't really matter the actual physical location where that file is sitting. So it looks like everything is good, and I'm happy with it. I hope this helped out. If you have any questions, go ahead and ping me on Discord or at any of the places where I've mentioned that I reside at. Anyway, that was a lot of fun, right? It was a learning experience for me. That was literally the second one I ever did, so I'm actually pretty proud of myself. Um, again, yeah, I hope that helps. So anyway, kids, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it wasn't too long. I hope it wasn't too uh, detail oriented. Um, but anyway, we'll catch you in the next episode of mintCast. Until then, I've been Bill, and I'm out of here.